Yeah, I did right. Yeah.
Harrison.
We're here to give honor, to give thanks to the most beloved mother, grandmother, sister, and friend. Today is not only a special day for Anne, but today is also the yahrzeit of her dear husband, Sam, who passed away some 25 years ago. And just a few days ago, coincidentally, March 9th, which was the date of her passing, happened to be their wedding anniversary together. We're going to start with a selection from the Psalms. We're going to read the 23rd Psalm, first in Hebrew, then in English. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo iksar, B'nai stashach yarbitzeni, Almei menuchos yenachleni, Nafshi yeshove v'yancheni v'magli tzedek l'man shemo, Yam ki elech v'ketz hamaves, lo yirara ki ata imadi, Shiftecha mishantecha hima yenachamoni, Taroch lefanai shulchan eged zarai, Ishtanta b'shem roshi, kosi revaya, Avdov b'chesed yirdefuni, Kol yemei chayai, V'shavti b'beis Adonai, La'arech yamim. Psalm of David. God is my shepherd, I shall not lack. In lush meadows he lays me down, beside tranquil waters he leads me. He restores my soul. He leads me on paths of justice for his name's sake. Though I walk in the valley, overshadowed by death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare for me a table in the view of my torments. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for many long days. It's also our custom to read what is called the Eshet Chayil, the woman of valor, which is a selection from the Proverbs. We'll first read it in Hebrew, and then we'll say it in English. Eshet Chayil miyimsa, ve'rachav mipnini mechra, batach v'alei vala, l'shal le'ksar. Gemalsu tov v'lora, kol yemei chayecha, darsher tzamru v'fishtim, v'taz b'chapetz kapecha. Haisa kinyo socher, mimerchak tavi lachma, v'taken v'od laila, v'tititerach, leveis l'chuk narasecha. Zamem asadeh v'tikachechu, v'pri kapecha natukara. Agro v'oz maznecha, v'tametz zoesecha. Tama ki tov zachra, le'yichbe v'laila neira. Yedecha shilcha v'kishor, v'kapecha tamku v'chaleh. An accomplished woman who can find far beyond pearls is her value. Her husband's heart relies on her, and he shall lack no fortune. She repays his good, but never his harm, all the days of her life. She seeks out wool and linen, and her hands work willingly. She is like a merchant ship. From afar she brings sustenance. She rises while it's nighttime and gives food to her household. She envisions a field and buys it. From the fruits of her handiwork she plants a vineyard. With strength she girds her loins and invigorates her arms. She discerns that her enterprise is good. Her lamp is not snuffed out by the night. She spreads out her palm to the poor. She extends her hands to the destitute. She makes a cloak to sell and delivers a belt to the peddler. Strength and majesty are her raiment. She joyfully awaits the last day. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and a lesson of kindness is on her tongue. She anticipates the ways of her household and partakes not of the bread of laziness. Her children arise and praise her. Her husband, he lauds her. Many daughters have amassed achievements, but you have surpassed them all. False is grace, in vain is beauty. A God-fearing woman, she should be praised. Give her the fruits of her hands, and let her be praised in the gates by her very own deeds. I'd like to share with you a few ideas, a few thoughts that were shared with me by this family. It was such a pleasure talking with all of the family and learning about the special nature of Anne, her personality, her perspective, the way she lived her life with such strength and such courage and such independence. Anne was born July 14th, 1927, in the Glenville neighborhood of Cleveland, just off of East 105th Street. It was a bustling neighborhood, a Jewish area, where Anne attended the famous Glenville High School. There were many, many neighborhood kids just like her, the children of immigrant parents, who recently arrived to the neighborhood and seeking the American dream. Her mother's parents were Tetievers, coming from Tetiev, Russia, with her grandfather and his two brothers being the founding members of the Tetiever Avas Achim Anshe Sfard synagogue, going way back, I believe, to 1910 or so, and then later on becoming the more familiar Warrensville Center Synagogue in 1959. And her father's family coming from Minsk in Belarus. When Anne came along, it was difficult for her mother to raise her, so she was taken care of by her most beloved, her very beloved, Sister Ray, 18 years her senior, who was buried right here, just nearby, so close. Ray devoted her life to making sure that Anne was taken care of in every possible way. Only after making sure that Anne was set and all okay did she marry and create her own life when she was over 40 years old. Ray and Anne were very, very close, with Ray passing about 11 years ago at the ripe age of 102 years old. Not only was Ray like a mother to her sister, but she was like a grandmother to Anne's children, because their own grandparents had passed away early when they were young, and she, to them, was the grandparent that they didn't know. Therefore, it's very appropriate, like we said, these two are so close together in the cemetery as this very, very close, special family unit.
Rabbi, real quick.
Yes?
My mother's birthday was July 14th. My aunt's birthday was July 13th.
Wow, their birthdays were another sign of their closeness. The family has a lot of coincidences in dates and circumstances and the priestly classes we were discussing, so there's a lot of signs from heaven and above that there's good connections being made here. So both Anne and her husband Sam were at Glenville High School. They're a little bit apart in age, and I'm not sure if they brushed shoulders at all, but a little bit later, if they didn't know each other then, they were going to know each other later when they were set up by some common friends, and in 1947 they were married. When the boys got older, Anne went off to work. That was then the May Company on Cedar and Warrensville. She worked part-time. She worked as a woman's shoes salesperson. She was known as more than a salesperson. She was beyond the salesperson, whatever the term might be. She was a phenomenon. She was a legend, whatever you want to call it. She spent more than 30 years there selling shoes. But it was more about the connection she made with people. It was more the way she treated people, the more the way she was as a person than the shoe sales that were the main focus. And many, many years later, 20 years later, whatever, people would come up to her in the store or wherever, and they would say, "You must be the lady, the shoe lady from May Company. I definitely remember you. I definitely know you." And she was so flattered. She loved to hear that people remembered her from the old days of the May Company. And not only did she love it when people remembered her that she worked there, but when they would say to her, "You actually look exactly the same as you used to look back then," that was the ultimate. That was the best compliment you could possibly give to her. After that, Anne took on a few other jobs and miscellaneous jobs, and it was then that Sam began his career as a volunteer at Hillcrest Hospital. He really loved it. He really enjoyed it. And then ultimately, when he passed away, she decided that it was her turn to become the volunteer at Hillcrest. And she did that for more than 20 years. And it was her, every day, she would get into her car, no matter what her age was, drive herself independently to Hillcrest, sit at that desk, and welcome people to the hospital. At first, it wasn't so bad. There were no computers. It was just paper. It was just the old-fashioned way. But when the computers ultimately came, she wasn't so happy about that. But she was more than happy to guide people, to direct people, and she really was the face of Hillcrest Hospital in many particular ways. And again, many people remembered her from that particular position over there. If you look at the picture that you have, in the listing on Berkowitz-Kumin, she isn't wearing a boring neutral color shirt. She is wearing green. And if you knew her, you would know that that was her thing. If you didn't know she had a personality, you just looked at her clothes, and you could see the personality loud and clear. She loved her greens and her pinks and her yellows. Everything had to have a little pizzazz, a little bit of spark, and that's who she was. And it wasn't just the pizzazz, but she was always immaculately dressed. Everything was perfectly matched, perfectly integrated, perfectly goes together, so clean, so nice, and so well put together. She truly loved her boys very much, even though at times she could have been a little bit on the strict side, but through her all strictness and through her many regulations and laws that she enforced on a regular basis, the love and caring came through in a very, very special and very profound way. She not only loved her boys, but she was truly over the moon when her first grandson came to the world, our dear Harrison. And Harrison shared, Harrison is going to speak a little bit as well as the boys, but he shared something that tells you a lot about her. he told us about a character that she made up, a person named Moishi. So Moishi could have been someone from the old neighborhood, but for her, Moishi was a made-up person, but it was a person that taught lessons, who taught life, who taught how things should be. And very often to her grandson, she would tell him what Moishi would do, what Moishi would say, what Moishi would believe in. And the things that were important to her would come out. You know, how you should be nice at school, how you should treat people respectfully, you should be kind to people, you should be someone that other people like. Your image should be positive, people should like you, people should respect you. And so this little Moishi was really Anne and what she stood for as being most important to her. And the other thing she often said to her grandson was that don't forget Grandpa. You know, even though he passed a long time ago and many years have passed, it's our duty, it's our responsibility to remember the people that gave us things, people that were part of our lives. We can never forget them. We owe them a constant sense of dedication and tribute and respect. Certainly her personality was strong. I don't know if I strongly mentioned how strong she was, but she certainly was. She was totally independent, but in her own special way. She was an immaculate housekeeper. She was always washing the floors, always keeping everything clean. And her family said that the smell of Murphy's oil was something they permanently had enmeshed in their nostrils. They could never get out that smell because it was always there, because the Murphy's oil was always being reused and refreshed whenever she could. She was very organized about her chores. That, you know, Monday was the shopping day, Thursday was the kitchen floors day, and each day had a particular purpose and a particular mission. And the kids knew it was Thursday if they had forgotten, because when they would come off of the bus from school or they'd walk back from school, they'd walk in the door and she would pass to them a pair of socks. Because I had just cleaned the floors today, and they're immaculately clean, and you're not going to wear those shoes here and mess up the beautifully clean floor that she had. So, just in conclusion, we spoke about a lot of things about her. And a lot of people have difficult parents. A lot of people have parents who are very rules-bound and strict, but it doesn't always mean that the children respect and understand and appreciate. And you guys are very unique. You know, it wasn't always easy, it wasn't always simple having so many rules, but you truly appreciated, you truly respected, you truly loved your mom's strong-mindedness and her independence. And it made her happy, and it was her way in life, and you made sure that it continued that way as much as possible. So I'm sure everyone is waiting to hear not just from the rabbi, but the main speakers today are the children, to hear the words that they will share with us directly from their hearts. We didn't make up an order of who wants to speak, though. Who wants to go next?
Bruce, go ahead.
These chairs are not easy to get up from.
Appreciate everybody being here to help us remember Mom today. You know, growing up, I think we were fortunate because we had parents who really loved us and gave us great guidance. And so I look back and it's like, you know, the strength of my mom and dad, you could never divide them, by the way. Once one made a decision, that was it. And so we were really given great guidance all throughout our lives, and we grew up with knowing what was right and what was wrong. But as the rabbi said, you know, the big thing today seems to be the trend toward aromatherapy. Well, Mom had aromatherapy down when I was a kid. Her aroma, as the rabbi said, was Murphy's oil. So. And to this day, I use Murphy's oil, and I always think of Mom when I pull it out. But lest you should think that Mom was the perfect homemaker, I have one of my favorite remembrances was a day when Mom was getting dressed to go to work. She put her skirt on and a button fell off. So she took her skirt off and was in her slip and was sitting in the living room sewing the button on. And when she finished, she stood up, and lo and behold, she sewed the skirt to her slip. So Mom was not always good about all of her domestic duties. But the funny thing was, Mom herself just laughed herself silly with that. Mom had a self-deprecating sense of humor, and it always stuck. She was a wonderful person. I will always miss her, and I will always be grateful to Mom and Dad for the upbringing we had. It was we always knew they were there. They were always there for us, always providing well for us. I will miss her.
Harrison?
Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Put a few words together. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, everyone, for being here today to help us honor my Grandma Ann. She was simply my Grandma Ann. To others, she was Ann or Mom. But I was always so proud, and I remain so proud to have her as my Grandma Ann and I, her grandson. We didn't always understand each other, I think, growing up. Our senses of humor were bound within family blood, but there were inevitably some age gap misunderstandings and generational misunderstandings. But we always made the best of those, and she always got a laugh out of those misunderstandings. And I always understood the depth of her love, the strength of her spirit, and the magnitude of her presence. As my Uncle Bruce and the rabbi said, very strong-willed, and her strength of mind was just impeccable. I'll always remember the effect that she had on friends, family members, acquaintances, and strangers alike. Her personality, like a gravitational pull. There was nobody like her. I will always remember and be grateful for the love and the time and energy that she gave me, and I will miss her very much.
Once again, Cheryl and I appreciate, as well as Bruce, Harrison, everybody being here, especially on a cold afternoon. I'm just going to say a couple very brief things, and if you really want to hear some wonderful dialogue, you'll join us afterwards at the Brookwood Tavern in Solon, because I have a few stories to tell you. But what I want to leave you with right now is three words actually to describe her. She was very witty. She was feisty. Please God, she was feisty as hell. And gregarious, I think. Those are three words that will describe her. And I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to miss her. She was one of the things, especially as the last couple months or so, family was extremely important to her. And Bruce and I being together was something that carried her over the last several months, as well as Harrison. So, you know, she was very, very strong in the family. Her and Ray were inseparable at times, and that's something that we have brought out to Harrison, and Harrison knows the family was important. So, I've got some anecdotes that we'll share in a little while, but again, thank you for coming.
And if I may, one other comment I wanted to make. So over the last few days, I was calling acquaintances of Mom to let them know, and I talked to 3 of her co-workers and from Hillcrest Volunteering, and they just related some great words about Mom, and how Mom just made their job over there so delightful. She would always make them laugh, and that's the way Mom was. I think, Jerry, you're nodding in accordance. Jerry worked with Mom at May Company in the early years, in the early 50s and 60s, and that's the way Mom was.
I have a story to tell.
Okay.
Don't let him tell more than one, because otherwise he'll be there all day.
All right, so we have a lot of good stories to look forward to. Don't miss the lunch and make sure you get all of them. And we certainly will commit to her. We're not going to be too sad. We're not going to cry. We're just going to laugh and be strong and deal with life in her own unique spirit. So now we're going to move to the next part of the service, which is making sure that the physical needs are taken care of. So we are going to rise if we can, and we're going to lower the casket. We're going to place the casket cover on top. And once the casket cover is on top, we're going to take part in the mitzvah of placing earth on top of the casket cover. We usually invite the immediate family to do so first. They take a shovel, place a little earth on top of the casket cover, put the shovel back, and then each person does the same. participate to take some of the earth, please go ahead. You can take from the bucket or you can take from the pile.
How you doing? I think anybody else who would like to participate, I think now would like.
Just a little bit lighter.
Yeah, pretty much. How you doing? Sorry? Thank you for your help.
I just wanted to close with a reading that will follow with the memorial prayer and then by the Kaddish. The reading is called "To Those I Love and to Those Who Love Me." It was something that was written by a person whose health was very difficult and they were nearing the end of their life and they wanted to leave a message of strength for their family. And this is what they wrote. "When I'm gone, release me, let me go. I have so many things to see and to do. You mustn't tie yourself to me with tears. Be happy that we had precious years. I gave you my love, you can only guess how much you gave to me in happiness. I thank you for the love you each have shown, but now it's time I traveled on alone. So grieve a while for me, if grieve you must, then let your grief be comforted by trust. It's only for a while that we must part, so bless the memories within your hearts. I won't be far away, for life goes on, so if you need me, call, and I will come. Though you can't see or touch me, I'll be near, all of my love around you, soft and clear. And when you must come this way alone, I'll greet you with a smile and say, welcome home. El Malei Rachamim, Sheikhein Ba'mromim, Hamzeh Menucha Nechain Al Kanfei Hashchina, Ve'malais Kedoshim, Uvtaharim, Gezarakia Mazhinim, Es Nishmas, Shahalach Leilamo, Ma'avor She'nachtu Mispalim Ba'atas Kras Nishmasa, Ve'gan Eiden Te'menuchatsa, L'chein Bal Harachamim, Yasti Reicha B'sisa Kanafav Li'oidlamim, V'yitzor B'tzor Chaim Es Nishmasa, Adonaihu Nachalasa, V'sanoach Al Mishkava V'shalom, V'nomar Amen. O God, full of mercy, who dwells on high, grant proper rest on the wings of the divine presence, in the lofty levels of the holy and the pure ones who shine like the glow of the firmament, for the soul of our most beloved Anne Mills, who has gone into her world and for whom we pray. May her resting place be in the Garden of Eden, and may the Master of Mercy shelter her in the shelter of his wings for all eternity, and may he bind her soul in the bonds of life. God is her heritage, and may she repose in peace on her resting place. And we say together, Amen. Now we turn to the family who are going to recite the Kaddish. Just make sure you have your Kaddish cards and everything. Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah B'Yalma Divrach Hirutei B'Yamlit Malchutei B'Chaye Chon Ov Yomei Chon Ov Chaye Zechol Beit Yisrael B'Gala B'Zman Kariv V'Yimru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Barach Le'olam Omei Omaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal shmei dekudasha b'richu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushvechata v'nechemata tamiram v'yomam v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya V'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom imremav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru amen. Thank you so much, everyone. We're going to close the service with that. Just before we leave, we give words of condolences and consolation to the mourners. We say Hamakom Yenachem Etchem B'Soch Shar Aveli Tzion Yerushalayim. May the omnipresent comfort you among all the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you so much, everyone.